Hey, so it finally seems like we got some good news if you're an Xbox fan, and again, I think that there is still going to be some good news to be had. It just really kind of depends on what you're looking for in terms of good news yourself. Like that's just going to be something that is going to be different for everybody. Good news for me is something that is completely different than would be good news for you. For me, good news for Xbox would be, hey, Xbox is doing exclusive games again, and I think that would be something that would kind of impress me a lot. Whereas I'm not sure about you guys, but just for me anyway, like that would be good news. Sometimes people look at things specifically in like a specific way, and from what we've heard, it could look like the next Xbox, whatever that might be. It looks like it's going to be a full-on PC, is going to come out next year. I've said I'm going to go into it with an open mind. Like for the most part, I probably will not buy it. I think there's a lot of things that really kind of depend on the price, if it has a physical media drive, what is their idea behind Game Pass? Are you going to have to pay the $30 a month still if you want to play multiplayer? All that kind of stuff. Are you going to have to mix with the, PC crowd when it comes to the multiplayer? There's a lot of questions to be asked, and that's something that I feel like we'll probably get some answers to before too long, and that's just what we'll have to do. And I just am curious about everybody else's kind of take on this as well, because like I said, it could be a very interesting time for everybody in gaming. But this is actually, I think, good news. This is long past something that we've been asking for. Gamers have been asking for this for a long time. It looks like we could be getting the new Xbox controller, and this could be coming this year, which would be over a year before the new generation is even going to come about. So, hey, I think that's incredibly good news, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will probably certainly agree with that. And it looks like it's reportedly releasing pretty soon. As part of a report on The Verge, journalist Tom Warren has revealed that Microsoft's next-gen Xbox controller revision is coming later this year, after it was originally canceled in 2024 when plans reportedly changed at Xbox headquarters. Indeed, we heard about the Xbox Seville controller revision years ago, and it sounds as if some form of that new pad will release here in 2026. Warren says that this year's revised controllers includes Wi-Fi connectivity to reduce cloud gaming latency. So this is what he had to say, quote, "I'm hearing that Microsoft has greenlit next-gen Xbox controllers that include Wi-Fi connectivity to reduce Xbox cloud gaming latency. A new Xbox controller was originally planned for 2024 alongside a canceled Xbox Series X refresh." So again, if you guys didn't know, when Microsoft was doing the FTC trials, right, it came out that they were going to have this controller called Seville. It was going to have haptic feedback. It was going to have all the stuff that like is common. It's been common this entire generation to everybody except for for Xbox, right? Like the Switch even had better things, and Rumble and stuff like that. And of course, the haptics and things on the PlayStation 5 controller are out of the world. They're amazing. So it's weird that Microsoft went with kind of the bare bones approach this generation, but it is cool to see that, hey, they're going to be doing that, and it looks like it could be coming this year as well. The report doesn't go into detail about the old Seville features we heard about, such as haptic feedback, modular thumbsticks, or rechargeable battery, and more. For now, The Verge is reporting on the improved latency feature. Here's hoping that Microsoft has more up its sleeves regarding the controller. Now, here's the thing. If this is just a controller with, Wi-Fi connectivity, who the hell would care? Right? This better be the big controller with the haptic feedbacks and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, honestly, who would really give a crap? I don't think very many people even use the cloud stuff. So it wouldn't really make sense to focus on just that as a change. It also name drops Jez Gordon's previous reporting on the Elite Series 3 controller potentially coming this year, but doesn't go as far as corroborating it just yet. Warren simply says that an Elite 3 would align with the rollout of next generation controllers if it's indeed coming this year as well. Of course, The Verge's information is just a report for now, so it's worth taking with a pinch of salt until we hear more from Microsoft. Remember, we thought we were getting a big Xbox controller overhaul way back in 2024, and we're still using the launch Series X and S controllers to this day, and the the stuff. Hopefully they do this, and they deal with like the drift sticks and stuff like that, because it is a bit of a problem. Stick drift has been an issue for multiple controller for a while, but yeah, we need to kind of get out there and get some of these things kind of taken care of. I think it's like we've been left to the wolves for a very, very long time, and that's something that realistically is a real shame. I honestly feel like it's a tremendous shame that this has happened, that Microsoft has kind of neglected the Xbox fans for so long, and hopefully this is going to be something that actually goes out there and makes it better for all of us, because we all deserve to have the best possible gaming experience on Xbox, and that's exactly what we should be getting. So hopefully we do get that, and hopefully it's worth the wait. Microsoft really has this tendency to screw things up lately, and I'm hoping that they don't. Like I said, I would like to kind of get something done, and to be able to, I would love to be able to say, hey, I'm going to get an Xbox, good for me, right? But it's just like there's so many variables there, right? And it's like, it has to make sense. It has to make sense that it's a console. Like, I definitely don't want, and so it's really probably 100% almost a no-go. I would say 99.999% that I'm not going to get the next Xbox because of the various things that I already talked about. But again, they're not very forward thinking with their hardware like they used to be. I mean, some of the stuff in the Series X is awesome, and then of course some of it, doesn't really make as much sense to me. But again, you guys might feel a little bit differently than I do on some of this stuff. I always thought that Sony did, and there was always things, even when I was like this hardcore Xbox guy, there was always still things that Sony did that I thought was a little bit better. It was like, especially when this generation kicked off, like Sony had a whole new UI. Would it have been easy for them to just continue using the PlayStation 4 UI? Yeah, but when people are investing that money, $5,000 or more in your new product, and they want to be able to kind of have something that says, hey, that screams that this is new and worth the money. And Microsoft were literally using the same UI and the same controllers that they had already been using since 2013. So for already 7 years, and now here we are almost, all these years later, and it's crazy to me. 13 years later, we're still using the same controller, and we're still stuck with, no haptics and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, this is a smart move. Hopefully it's something that Microsoft fixes and gets rolling. I would love to see them get something where fans can be excited about it again, where fans can be amped up about it. So again, you guys might feel different than I do about this stuff, but I just feel like Microsoft, they're doing weird things, and the fact that it's not really specifically mentioned what this controller is for makes me doubt a little bit, because their focus has been specifically lately on mobile, cloud, and PC. And so if this isn't the one that's improving haptics and stuff, it really is a big FU to console fans. So I'm going to choose to be a little bit on the brighter side of things and say, hey, I'm hopeful it probably is something with haptics and stuff. Otherwise, what's really the point? A controller with Wi-Fi connectivity isn't going to be a big selling point to a console gamer or a PC gamer. It's just so who would that one be for? So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Like I said, it's going to be extremely interesting to see how Microsoft handles all of this stuff. They have to be able to answer all the questions that people have. They have to tell us why we should spend this money on this thing. Why would we bother buying an Xbox? And it can't be stuff like, oh, well, you can access all these stores, because that's what a PC was already doing. It can't be, well, you get access to Game Pass, because they would put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo platforms in a heartbeat if Sony and Nintendo would allow them. So they're not doing us any favors right there. We've got to really have some reasons to buy these things, and so far I have yet to see a compelling argument. But again, You guys might feel differently than me, and that's perfectly fine. We all have our own thoughts and opinions, but I'm curious about yours. How do you guys feel about this? Long past time to get a new controller. I'd love to see that. How about you guys? Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.